The caretaker introduces the film by narrating the story of the Ghost Rider, a doomed soul bound to walk the earth and carry out the devil's commands. The contract of San Venganza is a parchment that contains the power of 1,000 wicked souls, and a Ghost Rider had been ordered to acquire it. The Ghost Rider betrayed his ancestry and outran the devil himself since he realized that this contract was wholly evil. The scene shifts to a fairground where father and son stunt team Barton Blaze and Johnny are entertaining the crowd on ramps. After the performance, Barton reprimands Johnny for acting arrogantly and recklessly in an effort to please his girlfriend Roxanne. Welcome to our channel, Movie Recap. Subscribe and let's dive in. Spoiler ahead. Roxanne tells Johnny that her father is sending her away when they cross paths later that day under a tree. Johnny makes the decision to get ready so they may both flee. Before they separate, they exchange kisses. When Johnny returns home, his father is still holding a piece of paper and is asleep. The report comes from a doctor, and the bad news is that he has been identified as having terminal cancer. Crushed, Johnny rides his motorcycle to work. Mephistopheles approaches Johnny and asks if he'll ever ride for him. Barton's condition is brought up by Mephistopheles, who also offers to assist. When Johnny inquires about what he could provide in return, Mephistopheles responds, "Your soul." Johnny replies, "Okay," assuming the man is nuts or being sarcastic. When Mephistopheles hands Johnny a contract, he accidentally wounds himself opening it. This blood drop qualifies as an acceptable signature in Mephistopheles' eyes. Johnny awakens energized and happy in Barton's bed. Barton admits to Johnny that he was ill previously but is now feeling healthy as a horse. Johnny is in awe. The following day, Barton tries a brand new act at the show, jumping through a ring of fire, but fails and collides with the ground. Johnny sobs as he sees his father suffer amid Mephistopheles' menacing laughter. When Johnny spots Roxanne at the high tree, he doesn't go with her but instead rides away. When Mephistopheles approaches Johnny, he makes a promise to use Johnny's services when necessary in the future. We quickly advance to a decade later. Johnny is the most well-known daredevil in the world. At a packed stadium, he is attempting a brand new feat by leaping over a line of parked semi-trucks. Johnny successfully hits the field's targets, however he misses the landing and crashes into a wall while on his bike. The members of Johnny's pit crew, led by his close buddy Mac, come to his aid and discover him to be dazed but unharmed. When Johnny stands back up, the audience claps in approval. Later, when Johnny and his team are traveling, Mac is baffled because he doesn't understand how Johnny could have survived the collision. When Mac says that perhaps Johnny has a guardian angel, Johnny mumbles, "Maybe it's something else," as he glances out the window and briefly notices a flash of lightning turn his face into a skeleton. Mac and the team watch a television commercial for Johnny's upcoming stunt, which will take place in his birthplace. As Blackheart arrives at a Hell's Angels club in the desert, another weird black figure does too. Then, with a single touch, he manages to murder almost all of the group. After arriving at Johnny's flat, Mac tries to convince Johnny not to pull off this new prank because it appears unsafe. Mac is concerned because Johnny is acting more impulsively and has peculiar interests. Johnny's room is filled with odd literature regarding the occult. When asked what he is really seeking for, Johnny replies, "A sign and a second chance." Blackheart is accosted by the elemental spirits Gressel, earth, Wallow, water, and Abigor, wind, back at the Hell's Angels tavern, and enlists their assistance in locating the contract of San Venganza. Despite their fear of Mephistopheles, a moniker that enrages Blackheart, the spirits concur. When a reporter approaches Johnny for an interview, he is preparing for his upcoming prank. To his surprise, Roxanne, his former flame, is there. She arrives, and Johnny is so taken aback that he is unable to respond to any of her interview questions. Before Johnny starts his jump, Roxanne ends the interview and departs. Now that Johnny has agreed to remove the cars from the jump, Mac joins him on the ramp. He is relieved. 6 Blackhawk helicopters then drop into the stadium as the stadium roof opens after Johnny says he had another idea to add in. Mac is incensed by this alteration and demands to know what inspired such a notion. According to Johnny, his father Barton felt it would be amusing. Even though it is clear that Roxanne is still on Johnny's thoughts, he sets up his bike. He suddenly accelerates and moves down the ramp. After a few anxious seconds, Johnny successfully crosses and lands. Johnny waves to the audience before accelerating away. As Roxanne and her news van travel down the freeway, Johnny approaches them. To halt the van and speak to Roxanne, Johnny pulls a few tricks. Roxanne gives in and asks Johnny to meet her in the hotel's restaurant later that evening. When they learn that Johnny Blaze is on the interstate, a group of oncoming drivers who are irate at the traffic jam rush over to see what's going on, but when they see him, they swarm around him and demand autographs. When Johnny steps outside, he finds a brand new motorcycle waiting for him in the alley. When Mephistopheles shows up, he says that he has chosen to use Johnny's services. In order for this day to occur, Mephistopheles says that he has been keeping Johnny alive all this time. With the promise of returning Johnny's soul if he is successful, Mephistopheles forces Johnny to climb on the new bike and sets him off after Blackheart. Johnny's new bike speeds off, leaving a trail of fire and devastation throughout the town. When Blackheart and his crew arrive at a train yard, the night watchman confronts them. Blackheart is perplexed, claiming that this area was formerly a cemetery. Blackheart assassinates the watchman after he reveals that St. Michael's Church was responsible for moving the graves. When Johnny finally arrives, he thrashes in pain and gets off the bike. As Johnny roars in anguish and terrible desire, fire shoots from his hands and feet. Finally, a skeletal skull is revealed when his head erupts in flames. The replacement for the Ghost Rider is Johnny Blaze. In order to combat the Ghost Rider, Blackheart sends in his elementals. When Gressel backs a truck into the structure, Ghost Rider attempts to use some chains that he has taken off a neighboring wall as weapons but is prevented. Gressel is caught in one of Ghost Rider's chains that are set on fire as he emerges from behind the truck. Gressel wails in agony as he turns to stone and disintegrates. Whistling causes Ghost Rider to ride up on his motorcycle. When he touches the gas cap, the motorcycle changes into a fiery thing with a skull and chain that resembles the Ghost Rider. He sees a young woman being robbed as he travels through the town. The robber stabs him, but the knife simply melts off in Ghost Rider's body as he grips him. The assailant is told by Ghost Rider to "look into my eyes." The mugger screams in horror as his regrets over previous misdeeds resurface. Ghost Rider throws the robber aside once the agony is through. After finishing his drive through the town on the outskirts, Ghost Rider is clearly getting weaker due to the approaching morning. As soon as he enters a cemetery, he slowly but painfully transforms back into Johnny Blaze. At his father Barton's grave, Johnny falls to the ground. Reporting on the mayhem in town, enraged with Johnny for standing her up. Throughout the course of their inquiry, the police come upon a license plate that belonged to one of Johnny Blaze's motorcycles. The caretaker discovers Johnny and offers assistance. Initially dubious, Johnny changes his mind. The caretaker says that the Ghost Rider is effectively the devil's bounty hunter, who is tasked with capturing any hellbound souls who attempt to flee. The Ghost Rider moreover only shows up at night or when evil is present. The caretaker says that the penance stare, the Ghost Rider's most potent weapon, was used on the mugger, and Johnny recalls what he did to him. It causes whoever experiences it to feel the sorrow of every sin they have committed. The caretaker advises against Johnny leaving the cemetery since it is safer for him to stay there because Blackheart and the Hidden cannot enter a place of worship like the cemetery. Johnny examines the damage left by the incidents from yesterday night. He encounters Roxanne, who is furious with him. After returning to his flat, Johnny conducts some research on fire elements and shows some meager control over his newly acquired abilities. When Roxanne comes, he is questioned about what has been happening with Johnny. Roxanne rejects Johnny's explanation that he sold his soul to the devil and became a bounty hunter, believing instead that he is either lying to keep her away or has gone insane. Roxanne thinks that Johnny should be honest with her. When Johnny steps outside, the police stop him because they believe he is responsible for the murders from the night before. When Johnny claims he has no involvement, the cops place him in a holding area. Because Johnny never fails in his stunt displays, the prisoners resolve to assault him as payback. A teenage prisoner tries to defend Johnny but is shoved aside. Johnny is jumped by the other prisoners, who he easily dispatches by transforming into Ghost Rider. The lead thug's gloves and jacket are taken by Ghost Rider, who causes tiny spikes to protrude from the metal trim. After burning through the cage bars, Ghost Rider exits. He takes a moment to consider addressing the young prisoner who defended him before he declares him to be innocent and goes away. In St. Michael's Church, Blackheart is observed asking the preacher about the contract of San Venganza. Blackheart kills the minister when he claims to have no knowledge. Blackheart sends Abigor to deal with Ghost Rider after discovering that he is back in action. In order to escape police detention, Ghost Rider reclaims his motorcycle. The police chase after him right away, eventually catching up with him in a dead-end alley. Ghost Rider simply leans his motorcycle and rides up the structure without turning. In a building across the street, Roxanne is getting ready to leave when she looks out and notices the peculiar display. A police helicopter ambushes them as Ghost Rider approaches Abigor on the rooftop. In order to prevent them from interfering, Ghost Rider uses his chains to throw the helicopter away from the roof. Then, much like he did with Gressel, Ghost Rider tries to capture Abigor, but the latter uses his wind powers to flee. Abigor gets drawn in by a cyclone created when Ghost Rider fires a chain and spins it. The wind spirit is killed after a short period of struggle. When Ghost Rider descends from the roof, the cops make an effort to capture him. Ghost Rider makes an effort to fight off Roxanne until he spots her among the crowd. As Ghost Rider gets closer to Roxanne, the flames on his head become less intense. The police take advantage of this and start firing with their firearms. The Ghost Rider summons a wall of flame and flees, going into hiding in the graveyard. The caretaker tells Johnny about the previous Ghost Rider, a former Texas Ranger by the name of Carter Slade, to wrap up the contract of San Venganza tale. When Roxanne goes back to Johnny's flat, Mac is there. Roxanne starts reading some of Johnny's novels while Mac tells about how he recently has strange interests. She is now certain that Johnny was telling the truth. Mac is killed by Blackheart, who emerges out of nowhere. When Johnny comes back, Roxanne is being held hostage by Blackheart and Mac is dead. He assumes the shape of Ghost Rider and makes an effort to hit Blackheart with the penance stare. He simply chuckles, noting that since he lacks a soul, the penance stare will not affect him. If Johnny gives him the contract in the ruins of San Venganza by daybreak, Black Heat will release Roxanne. Johnny goes back to the cemetery and makes a promise to dig it up completely if necessary. When the caretaker breaks his shovel, the handle's rolled-up paper is seen. It is the agreement. Johnny makes the decision to accept it and engage Blackheart in one last battle. The caretaker concedes, reasoning that Johnny's situation makes him unpredictable and that he might even have the upper hand. Whistling, the caretaker calls a shadowy horse out of hiding. He gets on and starts to catch fire. Carter Slade, the former Ghost Rider, is revealed to be the caretaker. To reach San Venganza, both riders set off. Johnny is escorted to San Venganza by Carter, who then passes out. In preparation for facing eternity for his deeds, Carter hands Johnny a shotgun before riding off into the distance. The final remaining hidden, Wallow, ambushes Johnny as he is riding towards San Venganza. Wallow pulls Johnny into the river in an effort to drown him. In response, Johnny transforms into Ghost Rider and heats the water to the point where Wallow is evaporated. Roxanne is taken into custody by Blackheart. Roxanne is let go as Johnny delivers the contract. Johnny changes into Ghost Rider and attacks before Blackheart can claim the contract. After successfully repelling Ghost Rider's attacks, Blackheart reads the contract and issues an order to the town's ghosts to unite with him. The ghosts appear and join Blackheart, who then declares, "My name is Legion, for we are many." Using Carter Slade's shotgun, Roxanne engages Legion in combat. Although it hurts him, it barely slows down his progress. As soon as Johnny grabs the shotgun, he imbues it with his Ghost Rider abilities, transforming it into a weapon of hellfire. Legion is destroyed by the blast, but he quickly begins to recover. Johnny understands that Legion has now locked all 10,000 souls from San Venganza inside of him and has exposed himself to the most potent attack Ghost Rider can launch. Once more taking on the shape of Ghost Rider, he holds Legion captive long enough to unleash the penance stare. The sins of 1,000 souls pass through Legion as he cries in pain. After using the penance stare once more, Legion changes back to Blackheart and passes away. Upon his arrival, Mephistopheles congratulates Johnny on his accomplishment. He offers to give Johnny his Ghost Rider abilities back, but Johnny declines. He makes the decision to maintain the abilities and use them to combat Mephistopheles' evil. He is furious, but he is unable to reclaim anything, so he pledges to hold Johnny accountable. As Johnny promises to leave and follow the road wherever it leads, Roxanne and he share a tearful parting. Thank you for watching, follow for more.